Guests were scheduled to be on the show long before this Eric Greitens controversy from the last 24 hours. Mark Pedroli and Ben Sassone, you are local attorneys representing the Sunshine Project. Welcome to Big 550 KTRS.
Thank you, McGraw.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Okay, good. So you guys are representing the Sunshine Project. Governor Greitens came out, or I guess the Kansas City Star broke the story. We're going back a month or so ago, right? It's been
almost a month.
Almost a month. Where they reported that the governor is using a Confide app, which is like Mission Impossible, where once the message has been read, it's destroyed.
Correct.
Okay. What is the Sunshine Project?
The Sunshine Project is a collaboration between myself, Mark Pedroli, and Ben Sassone. We started it about a year ago when Ben and I were involved in a lawsuit, a Sunshine lawsuit against the city of Des Peres for the failure to produce a trial transcript that was paid for by the taxpayers of Des Peres, and they had it in their possession. That led to litigation against the city to try to get the documents on behalf of a lot of the citizens who wanted the documents, and Ben was the plaintiff and the lawyer in that effort as well. We decided, why don't we just form a collaboration where we can help people who are in similar situations, who aren't lawyers and who don't have the financial resources to be able to get documents from cities and help them file those requests and perhaps even the litigation when it's ultimately not produced.
So you guys are rabble rousers, basically, trying to demand documents from governmental agencies that don't like to give out documents to their citizens.
How dare us?
Right, yeah. It's an interesting... and this just started a year or so ago?
This is about a year old.
People don't realize, oftentimes, local entities don't like to give documents that they are forced to give.
And Ben can tell you more about that. Ben, go ahead, because he made the request for documents, and they didn't want to give him the documents, even though it was perhaps one of the most public documents you can imagine, a transcript of a trial proceeding. Ben?
Sure. We asked for a trial transcript before a before a public hearing in the city of Des Peres.
Right.
And normally you can get a trial transcript because the transcript happens while you're at the courthouse. Well, in this case, the judge appointed a special master, which means the hearing was kind of like an arbitration. It was outside of the courthouse. So there wasn't a public depository or a spot to go get the transcript. So we requested it through the city, and they said, no, we're not going to give it to you. I said, please, pretty please,
Right.
give it to us. No. I said, all right, I'm going to looked up, got into the Sunshine stuff, talked to Mark, said, well, we're going to have to file a Sunshine lawsuit if you don't give it to us. Tough luck, guys. You ain't getting it.
Right.
So we filed a lawsuit, and not only that, it was such a thing in our community that I got so irritated about, and so did Mark, that we decided, well, there's a city council position, alderman position open. One of us needs to get in there and start seeing what's going on. So we flipped a coin because neither one of us were too excited about being a politician.
True story.
Yeah, I lost the coin flip. Happily now.
So now you're an alderman in
the city of Des Peres.
In the city of Des Peres.
Uh-huh.
So now you're the reason why we don't get the documents out of Des Peres.
No, you're actually the reason why you do get them.
The Show Me Institute came on the show not too long ago. Did they not do a study and ask for like certain documents from the communities around town, and it was staggering the amount of misinformation and non-information that they were given.
It was, I believe, and I think I read this office or the audit. There was also something done by the Missouri Auditor's Office.
Yeah,
I believe Nicole Galloway's office, and we read this report, and it was staggering how many governments don't respond to requests for documents.
Yeah,
they just don't answer.
Or they say, yes, it'll cost you $50,000.
Or they say it'll cost you a lot of money. And
Right.
They obviously price you out of the game of getting information on your own government.
Yeah. Interesting with all this. Now, with this being said, and this is the climate in which we live in, now comes word that the governor is using an app called Confide, which, and I don't think they've acknowledged that they've used this, but the Attorney General has now opened up an investigation. But why is it wrong for the governor to have private communications with his staff so that, not everything should be open to the public?
Well, true. Not everything is necessarily open to the public, but that does not give anyone the right in the government to destroy the documents. And there's a difference, and it's a big one. When you're a governor, especially elected official, there are rules and laws about keeping documents. And in this case, communications sent by an elected official and communications among the agency about government goings-on, day-to-day goings-on in the government must be kept. And in the governor's case, it must be kept permanently. And if these text messages were being destroyed the minute they were sent or the minute they were received, we're arguing that's a direct violation of the law.
They should know better.
They should have known better, I believe.
But even text messages?
Even text messages. Text messages are as important as emails or any other communications. They're as important as phone calls, emails, and written records. They're usually action documents. Take this action, do this, do that. That is the record that people want. That's the record that the law provides that they should keep. And now the governor and the governor's office might not have said that they have used the app, but they certainly have not denied the use of the app. They have not denied the Kansas City Star report that actually lists a number of people in the office that downloaded Confide and use it to communicate with one another. In addition to that, the spokesman Greitens came out and not only did he not deny it, but he actually said that it is legal because these communications are transitory under the Public Records Act.
No, explain that in English.
Well, and I have the documents right here. It's agency records disposition schedule. Now, a transitory document, the definition of which is listed in the Missouri law, is a draft. So if you write a draft of an email or a text and you don't send it, that's a transitory document that can be destroyed.
Right.
Once it's sent, it's not transitory any longer.
What about phone calls? Phone calls aren't kept as records. They're not recorded.
Well, phone calls may not be recorded as records, but documents and text messages and documents, according to the law in Missouri, are records that must be maintained. In some cases, permanently, and for the staff members, I think it's 3 years.
All right. So, and this is the law. This is unequivocal. This is what got Hillary Clinton in so much trouble.
Exactly.
I'll let Ben speak to that.
Ben, I mean, this was the whole email scandal with the server in Chappaqua.
I kind of agree. I mean, that was when Mark and I were talking about this, I've had a few people say to you, so yeah, exactly, the questions you're asking, why text messages, why even this Confide app, why can't you just have a conversation while you're walking down the hallway? I mean, this goes to the basics of government transparency, the fundamental right that we have as taxpayers and citizens to know how our elected officials are deciding how to spend money, how to make decisions. And exactly, I think having the Confide app really isn't much different than having someone set up a server in your closet, wherever that was, I forget,
Right.
So that if you do a sunshine request, for example, you can't get those emails
Right.
of seeing what our government's doing and how they're making their decisions.
Well, in a sense, Confide is a digital form of destroying documents, of shredding documents.
Absolutely.
It's a shredder.
Yeah, right? Now,
Exactly.
the law clearly hasn't caught up to technology. Does the law mention text messages, or has that been court approved?
The law actually, I don't think it says the word. I think the rule-making bodies, though, who meet yearly to discuss what the law is,
Right.
They issue rules. I think they have decided that text messages are digital records,
Right.
and things that should be. So I don't think that's in dispute.
Now, you're telling me that, and let's just hypothetical this for a second. Let's say Governor Greitens gets a call from the media and says, you know what, hey, there's a woman alleging you had an affair, and we're going to release this. And he says, let me get back to you. How does he have a private conversation with his people to determine what's the best course of action if he's text messaging his PR person and they're texting back? You're saying those records should be maintained so that we know what the governor in his private thoughts are having with his staff about a personal matter?
Well, let's begin with this. If you're discussing matters with your staff, these are employees of the state of Missouri. They're paid for by Missouri taxpayer dollars. They should represent the citizens of Missouri. Now, if the governor has a personal issue that he's talking about with his wife or with a family member that's not an employee of the government, that might be different. That might be a different circumstance. But in this case, the allegation is that there are correspondence and records that are being destroyed among members of the staff that are paid for by the governor's office. That makes it entirely different.
What about an email he sends to his wife from his work computer saying, honey, I'll be home at 7. Don't forget the milk. And, oh, by the way, what about Junior's report card? It didn't turn out very well today. He sends it on his government email at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to his wife. Should that be made public, and or allowed to be held over so that someday the world can find out the personal email?
Whether excuse me, whether or not that should be public is one question. Whether or not you can just automatically destroy it is another question. I mean, when you do a sunshine request, there are exceptions under the Sunshine Law where you don't have to produce a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things the government does. I mean, we can't get into the CIA records. Doesn't mean they can just go out and destroy them. I mean, these records have to be kept. Now, regarding this specific situation,
my point is,
hypothetical,
though, the personal conversations, because I have a work email phone, and I get personal, and I get families and girlfriends and buddies and work, and all within 5 minutes.
Sure. And if you don't want your employer seeing that, the governor is a employee of the citizens of the state of Missouri. If you don't want your employer seeing it, send it from your personal email. Just like if you at work, a lot of us at our jobs, if we use our work email, we all know that your employer might be watching. Your employer has access to it. No different here.
I have a personal, just a little side note here. I have a personal email. I have a Gmail account that I get work stuff on and personal stuff on. So they can't check my personal stuff on my work email, even though it's my personal email, right? Does that make any sense?
I mean, you're talking about your employer. I mean, that's between you and your employer. But
right. Well, but I mean, if I'm using
usually no.
If I'm using @ktrs.com, they have access to all that.
I would imagine so.
If I'm using gmail.com and my boss sends me a message there, and then I send a message to a buddy, they can't access that.
I wouldn't think so.
Right.
But again, I don't know your specific situation.
Yeah, no, I understand. All right. All right, just sort of side note. All right, back to the topic here. So you guys are what? You guys are suing the governor, the lawsuit? What's going on here?
Well, I can explain a little bit about the lawsuit. So, the lawsuit is against the governor, Eric, and the Greitens, and it's against Michelle Hollifer, the custodian of records, and it's also against John Doe's 1 through 20. And the reason we list John Doe's as a defendant is because we're alleging, frankly, that other people in the governor's office also downloaded, confide, and also instantly deleted communications within the governor's office. Now, we don't know the names, and we'd like to know the names. And I think that the governor should come out, hopefully sooner rather than later, and tell the public who used the app, why they used the app, and answer the petition.
This is different than Josh Hawley's investigation into this.
This is different. And what makes this different is our investigation is a lawsuit that is in a courtroom. We have a judge. That is the difference between our investigation and all the other investigations, which I think gives us a slight advantage in the sense that we have a judge who is ready probably to make some decisions. The first count in the lawsuit is for an injunction. We're going to ask the judge, or we have asked the judge, to enjoin the governor and his staff from using Confide immediately.
Right.
Stop using it until she can make a determination on whether it's legal, whether it's not, but stop using it now, because as we argue in the lawsuit, it's possible that on a daily basis, dozens, if not hundreds, of government communications are being destroyed every day.
Yeah. When is the judge going to rule on this?
Well, we're trying to get a hearing date right now for the injunction, and frankly, they haven't accepted service yet. The defendants haven't accepted service.
What does that mean?
Well, that means that they sometimes you reach out to them and you say, will you accept service so that we don't have to have the sheriff serve you
the
lawsuit. So they're not accepting service. They might accept service, I hear. So that could be a matter of days. When they do that, and I'm going to challenge the governor now and all of the defendants to agree on a date soon that we can appear in court and argue this injunction.
Because they have yet to acknowledge they're using it. They haven't said they're not using it. They haven't said they are using it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it isn't like the law is somewhat. I mean, these laws are well established, well known. This isn't a Hail Mary lawsuit. Right? I mean, these are well-defined laws that every governor, Republicans, Democrats, have to follow.
Well, not only that, if you look in the news and you Google Sean Spicer, they had this come up in the White House, and Sean Spicer, probably based on the advice of White House counsel, made a decision that the staff members in the White House couldn't use Confide. Yet it's being used in the governor's office, allegedly, and that's part of our lawsuit. There has not been a denial. There has been what I think is an excuse for why they're using it, which is, again, what I told you was the quote from the spokesman saying that they're transitory messages.
Mark Pedroli and Ben Sansone, two local attorneys affiliated with the Sunshine Project, suing Governor Greitens over his use of the Confide app. All right, guys, that's it. Anything else we need to know? Anything else you want to tell us?
If anyone wants a copy of the lawsuit, they can go to my website at pedrolilaw.com. There's a copy there. We're going to give periodic updates of events as they occur. If you want to know when the injunction is going to be scheduled, we'll post it as soon as we know.
If Governor Greitens were a Democrat using a Confide app, would you be as vigorous towards a Democrat?
Without a doubt. Ben?
Yeah, without a doubt, absolutely.
So it isn't. This isn't a partisan political argument.
Absolutely not. Just
Absolutely
like I was upset about the Hillary Clinton email thing. It's no different, really.
Right. Well, it is true. If you were offended by the Hillary Clinton email scandal,
Sure.
you should be offended by this as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's government transparency. It goes across party lines.
Right. And if you weren't offended by the Hillary email, then you should be okay with Eric Greitens destroying emails.
Probably.
Right? I mean, all right, Ben and Mark, guys, thanks for coming in.